Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here today for starting your dream business. This is one of those where we always like to think that you have those ideas and now how can you make them real? And so hopefully today some ideas and tips that will help you either make that dream come true or say I'm going to wait and see what happens. And I like to start the presentation with a little bit of quotes. And the first one, ideas are easy and implementation is hard. And Guy Kowalski was worked for Steve Jobs, and he was responsible for handling the Macintosh computers back in the early 90s. And he did that for Apple for through the 90s, and he decided he wanted to go out on his own and start himself. And it has been said that numerous times that Steve would call him up and say, hey, I need you to come back to Apple and work. And he said, no, I'm going to continue what I'm trying to do here. And obviously today he's doing quite well. The second one to kind of get your thought process going is what do you need to start a business? 3 simple things. Know your product better than anyone, know your customer, and have a burning desire to succeed. And that's Dave Thomas, who's the founder of Wendy's. And a little background on Dave is he had a chicken franchise, was doing quite well. And he decided one day that he really was not seeing how McDonald's and Burger King were doing the hamburger business the way that he thought it should be. So he decided he was going to start his own business. And his family and his friends just said, Dave, why would you do that? The market is saturated right now and you shouldn't do that. He says, no, he says, this is something I have a burning desire that I want to get done. So he did start his business, and today it's the third biggest hamburger, and the franchise is #1 hamburger franchise out there. So again, those kind of little things about what it took to get them going. And then just to give you a little bit of idea, I went out and looked at some small business facts. And a couple things that stood out. One is the first one, that 50% of small businesses survive 5+ years, and then 1/3 of them after 10 years. So that issue there is like, well, why is that be? Some is that the business wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They did not work hard enough, or that the economy did not have it. But it's 50% of businesses for 5 and 1/3. So there's your chances there. The other one that caught my eye was 70% of small businesses are operated and owned by a single person. That right there is a number that a lot of people are taking that step and going out to be their own boss. And the other one was 64% of small businesses started with less than 10,000. So a lot of the businesses, sometimes it does take a lot to get a new business up and running, and some it doesn't, but the average is about 10,000. And then thinking sometimes that you're your own boss, you can make all this money in the world. However, the average income for small business owners is around $65,000 a year. So it's good numbers, and hopefully this will get you to that another step to start thinking about your dream business. So when business owners come to me and they're thinking about wanting to start their own business and we're talking, the first thing I kind of like to ask them is get an assessment of what they're looking at. And I ask them just some real questions like family. Do you have a significant other? Do you have children? Are those things going to be able to have your own business and be able to still enjoy the family and the time? Are you going to your children, if you have any? Are they in sports, academia, after school items that might, take you away from some of your work? And if you're the sole owner of the business, it has to be you. And then the work. How often are you going to work? 10 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours? What type of that will it be for you? Is it going to be an ongoing, or is it maybe only for the first 6 months that you have to do this? And life balance, that would be what type of voluntary items are you do you do? What do you enjoy to volunteer? Would that be taken away if you now are working? Or do you support charities that you like to have as well? So if those things are important to you, you have to take those into consideration. And then cash reserves. What is it going to be to start up the business? What kind of overhead costs will you have? And then if you are going to go out, what kind of cash flow will you have to be able to do this? The normal rule of thumb says current living expenses is 3 months minimum. That's on top of your startup costs and your overhead costs as well. And then you also have to think is that if things don't go as well as what they should and you're running out of money, are you going to be able to borrow? Who would you be able to borrow from? Family, friends, maybe a financial institution. But thinking of those things ahead of time will help you make those determinations. So if you're looking at starting your business, I always suggest looking at a market research. And why? Because the market research is the why. Why do you want to go into business for yourself? What does that opportunity look like for you? And how can you take that idea and make it a success? So if you're doing the same work or starting a business that's in the same work, you already have the customers and you know the business. But if it isn't in the same line, maybe it's something different that you're doing, then talk to those customers and those businesses who are already operating and try and gather that information. What is working for them? What's the positive? What's some of the negatives to help you make those decisions? And if you're looking at a product or a business that's a niche, is it got a competitive advantage? What would that be? So if you have a special widget that you have just developed, how are you going to, what is it that you're going to do and what kind of a competitive advantage? If it's a special widget, do you need a patent? Do you need a copyright? So those are things then that now you're going to have to take it to the next level and look at saying, I might need an attorney. Or maybe your plan is going to be very, very heavy in terms of accounting processes, and you might need to have an accountant. And talk to those people before you even start thinking about it to say, here's what I'm thinking about, and let them provide you some of those answers. So when we talk to businesses about getting started, and the first thing we suggest, and depending on the size of the business, we suggest for them to do or write a business plan. And the reason why is that really puts everything of your thoughts and your actions down in paper, and you get to do the true evaluation of that. It's your foundation and the structure of how the business will run and how you will grow the business. I will tell you, as a commercial lender, when a business owner brings us a business plan and to review it and look at that, we can then determine and ask those specific questions about that business, and especially on the business plan, the pro forma, which is what you think you will be making in year 1, 2, and 3, sometimes all the way up to 5, but the first 3 years, what is that going to look like for income and expenses? And again, a business plan is only as big as what you feel it has to be in terms of what type of a business it is. You might only have a business plan that could be 10 pages long. You could have a business plan that could be 100 pages long. It's based on what the things that you want to look at in terms of the business plan. So what are some things that we like to see in a business plan? So starting off with the strategy and planning in the business plan. And what that really does is go back to that earlier slide about the market. And the market, what is the market for this product that you are wanting to offer, or yourself to offer? And that is, what is the environment around that business for you? Do you have ideas on that? And we always suggest that when you're looking at that, to look at goals that you can achieve. So as you're going through, to say that maybe you want to be profitable by year 2, or maybe you want to have 3 employees by a certain period of time. And you've got that start off right there. The next one is marketing, and that's more of how are you going to brand your product. And again, depending on what type of a product that you have, I think it's really important on the marketing piece. And the marketing is really about the 4 P's. What is your product? How are you going to price it? Where are you going to sell it? And how are you going to promote it? And that all comes back into the type of business that you have. But the biggest question is, in today's day and age, more and more people are using the social media. So the question to you is, when you're going through this business plan and understanding what your product is and who your market is that you're serving, that will also help to determine how much social media that you might need. Or also too, to help and develop a personal brand. So some of the social medias that we have or we've seen our businesses use: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, and a website. Not all of them use them all, some do. I mean, Facebook is probably the biggest one for the businesses to use. I'm seeing more businesses starting to do a little bit more of TikTok, and they're doing videos showing their product and how their product is used and what the benefits and the features of it. Website has always been there as well. A lot of people are still doing the websites because they can put more information on the websites. So when you look at that, the social media, the other questions you have to ask, and there's probably quite a few on the social media, but the first couple that come to my mind is, when you're looking at a website, do you have the expertise to build and maintain that website? How are you going to enhance the credibility of your brand using the publicity? And the brand is what you are all about. And that is the most important thing in the social media aspect, is making sure your brand is out there. So when I looked at Facebook, or Meta, as some people call it, versus a website, because those are probably the 2 biggest things that businesses use in today. And the Facebook is probably, like I said, one of the most popular. It's easy to start an account. It's a very easy online presence as well. And we all know that mobile is now the way that most people are going, so it's very mobile friendly. And Facebook can help support your web page as well. You can have people from your website go over to your Facebook, or vice versa. If you're doing promotions, you want to see more information about your product, it's much easier on a website to show your product on there. The Facebook, one of the things about Facebook that I strongly suggest, if you do have it, keep it updated. We have some businesses that have a Facebook, but if you go out and look at their Facebook, they haven't updated it since 2021. Even if you're just making comments about certain things, it's great just to keep that Facebook updated to let people know that you're there. But one of the things that Facebook does have some off on is that it limits your branding opportunities. Your web can control those, and then no search engine or optimization. So what that means is that when someone searches for a business or a business product, based on the search engine or optimization, it will put people up at the top. So with the website, the more the visits that you have, then you can get more optimization on there. And with the website, the nice thing is you control the content. You are not under a Facebook people who are watching over of what you say or what you put out there. You control the content on your website. And if you can also control the fixing the issues and upgrades, whereas Facebook just upgrades automatically. And you have to get a URL or a domain license to be able to do that. But going back to the control over fixing in issues and upgrades, it's important to see when you're going through your business plan, is that something that you're able to do, or do you need an outside firm that can do that? You can use the basic of websites. They're out there that you can get the URL domain. They can start it up. You can do very easy website items if you want, or you can get very complex. It all depends on how much you would like to go into. So then the next thing on the business plan is financing capital. And really when that is you're going through every little detail that you can think of on your business plan for cost-wise. It can be if you've got to go to seminars to learn more about the product that you want to sell or your own business that you want, you have to include that gas or maybe the hotel stay. You got to include every little bit on that so that you know how much cost that you are running into to determine where will I get all this cash if I don't have it available. So it's very important to go through each and every little bit of an expense. Which follows naturally after that is your accounting and cash flow. And that's, again, going back to what I said earlier, depending on the complexity of the business will determine how much accounting, what kind of accounting procedures that you might need. You might be able to handle it all with a QuickBooks or an Excel or a program that you have. Maybe you need a little bit more and you want a CPA or an accountant to handle it and also have to do your taxes. Again, that's all based on how complex you want to make it and your comfort level to know that I can do this or no, I can't do it. And the cash flow, that is very important, especially starting out in a new business, because that cash flow is going to be your living, what you can and cannot do in terms of can you borrow money, can you not borrow money, and the cash flow will be able to help you or help us understand that. And then the next one is operations. And the operations is where you have, where are you going to have your place? Is it going to, if you're making a product or you're selling a product, are you going to have it in your garage? Are you going to make it in your basement? Do you need space? Where is that space going to be? Do you need it somewhere near the expressway or near an airport? Do you have to have drivers for it? So those are all the operations of how you're going to get your product made and delivered and set up. And then the next one is human resource. And this could be one that you could easily skip over. Obviously, if you're your own owner, you're the only person, it's your responsibility. You might want to know some things on the HR side. But what happens if when you're going through your business plan and you need to have somebody to answer the phone or you need someone to be a driver for your business? Then you've got those employees. How are you going to pay them? Are they going to be 1099 employees or are they going to be W-2 employees? What are you going to offer them fringe benefits? Do you have to give them do you have to understand the HR side of things? Do you need to get a handbook written up? And those are things that obviously attorneys can help you with as well, but those are just things to think about how much your business is going to grow. If it's just yourself, you say, no, I don't need anything. Maybe on the benefit side, you need to look at insurance companies that might offer benefits as a whole group of with other groups that are associated with you as well. So take a look at everything on that human resource side because that's the important part, especially when it comes to employees. And then legal issues, the question always remains is like, what type of name for my business? And you can have any name, and your thought process behind that is, do you want a name for the town that you live in, or the county you live in, or the street you're on? Thinking about that is if you do, what happens when your business expands and you go, say, statewide or countrywide, people might not know the name of the town that you live in. Maybe you want to do what Dave Thomas did and name his business after his daughter's nickname. Or maybe you want it just to be the part of what you're doing, a consultant or the widgets. Whatever it might be, think of what that name. Do you want it to be real long so that people might not remember it, or do you want it short that they can remember it? Make it a little catchy name. Those are things that you don't think about it being, oh, it's just a name. It's a name that people might gravitate towards just because of the name itself. Once you find the name of what you want for your business, now you have to decide what type of business am I going to have. And there are a couple of them. There's the limited liability company, or an LLC, a partnership, a corporation, and doing business as are also referred to as DBA. The first three you file with the state of Michigan to get a license in that business name. And probably the LLC is probably the easiest one to be able to get started up. It's less paperwork, easy to start. The ownership is the people who are the owner. So if it's a single ownership, you are the member owner of your business and no one else. It has the flexibility involved in there as well. The next one is partnership. And a partnership, is exactly what it says. You can have one, you can have another partner, two, you can have as many partners as you so choose. But the partnership has some benefits in terms of, like they always say, two heads are better than one, so that you're able to have bouncing information and knowledge back and forth. Or maybe that partner comes in there bringing money to be able to support this business, so that they have the capital available. So maybe you might not have to borrow. Maybe your partner can be in there and can have the capital for you. Partnerships can be broken up in 50-50, 80-20, whatever it is. The partners all share in the income as well as the expenses too. And they split it up based on what the ownership level is. And then the next one is a corporation. And that's normally you see nonprofit organizations that are corps, but a lot of businesses, bigger businesses, are that, because the main difference there is that ownership of a corporation is designated by shares, by issuing shares of stocks. It is a complex business structure. It's usually appropriate for larger established businesses, but we have businesses here that have done the corporation. But it's independent from the people who own or run the corporation, and they are what they call the shareholders. And then going back to what we talked about, legal issues, the human resource, again, the same thing. If you are looking at any individuals that you want to hire, by all means, I suggest strongly to talk to HR attorney. Make sure that what you need to do to go through. I mean, look at the last couple years where we've had the COVID and the things that the government did for businesses to help them out through the COVID. And a lot of them had to do with employees in terms of, if they had COVID, time off, what would you do? Taxes, they also lowered the taxes for businesses as well too. So if you are looking at hiring people, I would strongly suggest talking to an HR attorney to make sure that you have a complete understanding about hiring employees. And the same thing with accountants as well. Again, as I spoke, the complexity of your business, I think, will determine how much you want for a CPA or accountant. And maybe you want them for everything, and that's great, because they'll be the ones that are getting all your financials at the month and putting them together, and then at the end of the year filing your taxes for you. And then I think also important is, once you establish your name for your business, and then you have your paperwork, your LARA, your state of Michigan business application completed, and you filed with the IRS for your tax ID, or also known as your EIN, then I say to open up a business account at a financial institution. And I think that starting that relationship early gives that a little bit, so we get to see how the business is progressing, what cash flow is going in, deposits, withdrawals going out. And then, based on what kind of accounts do you need, depending on your level of the business itself, would probably dictate. For example, do you need only a checking account? Or if you have some cash are you able to maybe look at getting a money market account? Do you need any other type of investment opportunities? Applying for a credit card, start that in the business name if you're able to. to be able to get a business credit card, you're establishing some credit use and seeing how that goes. Maybe you need a business loan. And a business loan really for a new business falls directly back on a business plan. When we have a member come in, a new business that wants to start a business, we're asking for that business plan. We want to see how much homework they have done and what their product is or their business and how they're going to enter the market. How are they going to make money and what are their expenses? And it's that cash flow that we're looking at, not just for startups. We're looking for a pro forma from first year, second year, third year, and we want to see how that flow is, because if there's not a large cash flow, it will be very tough to do business loans. And it depends on what you might need. Maybe you need to buy equipment for your new business. So you do equipment loans, or you want to buy a building to make your product in. So all those things that you take into consideration on a business plan will fall within the business loan, because that business plan is going to hopefully have all that information that you have to say, yes, I need a building so I can make my product, and I need this equipment in order to build it. So those are the items. But once you have that, this is how much I'm going to be able to make from my product. And that's where we look at with that on the business plan and the pro forma. And these are just, like I say, these are hopefully tidbits of information that will at least get you thinking more. If you are interested in starting the business, we're always happy to help, but hopefully these will get you some ideas of what it is that you need to do to look at getting a business. And so I like I said at the beginning, I love the quotes, and so I'm ending with a couple quotes today. And the first one is, every worthwhile accomplishment, big or little, has its stages of drudgery and triumph, beginning, a struggle, and a victory. And I think that's an important statement, because as you go through the business plan or looking to start the business and you develop a business plan, there's going to be things that you're going to be, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't. And then you're going to say, okay, I can do it. You got that beginning. You struggle on putting your business plan together. And when you're done and you've got that business name, you got your business ID, it's a victory. That's the start right there that will help you, hopefully help you continue to grow and be the business owner that you dream about. And then the last one that I had for a quote is, secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming task into smaller, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one. And I think I go back to that business plan. And that business plan that was there, you can, like I said, you can make it as in-depth as you want. You can add items to it. You can delete that you think that might be. But that is exactly it. Getting started, you break those complexes. You think, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that. But when you break down that business plan into those areas, it makes it much easier to then take those overwhelming tasks and make them manageable from there. So I would like to thank you very much for your time with us today. Is there any questions, Laura?
No, Mark, we don't have any questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. So if you do have questions at all after you have sat down and thought about this whole process, or if you would like to talk to one of our commercial team members, our email is right there, and you can shoot us an email. We'll go to all of us here at the credit union, and we'll be happy to help you out. Again, on behalf of TBA Credit Union, thank you for your time, and as well, wish you best of luck if you are going to go ahead with that dream of yours. Thank you.